Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPautos.com, your libertarian car guy. Caught something on the internet this morning that was published by my old employer, the Washington Times, about masking and about how there is now a persistent, small but persistent minority of people in this country who continue to mask. And the article was kind of fatuous in that it didn't get into the whole idiocy of it. It mainly talked about the normalizing of it. In other words, something that would have been embarrassing to do 5 years ago, as it ought to have been, has now become something that people just don't pay any attention to. And that's absolutely true. You know, I see it every day. You go to any retail outlet anywhere, whether it's a supermarket, Lowe's, whatever, and the odds are pretty good you're going to see at least one person walking around with that mask on their face. Now, if you can dial back the time clock a bit and go back to before COVID, it would have been extremely unusual to see somebody doing that in public. In fact, I can remember at the very beginning of the so-called pandemic, when I was sitting in the coffee shop that I used to go to before I got kicked out of it for not masking. The first time I saw a masker, you know, it was quite a sight. Everybody in there turned to look at this person who was walking into the place wearing one of these things over their face. And they looked like somebody who was mentally ill, because they were. I mean, it was commonly understood before the pandemic that if you walked around wearing a mask on your face, thinking somehow that was going to protect you from anything, you know, other than say pollen, which is a whole other matter. Sure, it's okay to wear one of those things if you're a woodworker, wood shavings and so on, but this idea that these masks are going to save you from inhaling or exhaling particles that are so small that you need an electron microscope to see them, and they pass very easily through the porous material of these cheap masks that people use. It's risible, it's retarded. And of course the article didn't mention that, it just mentioned that it's been normalized. And I got to thinking about, it's kind of like if a kid is abused, oftentimes they carry that damage with them through the rest of their lives. And we've got a significant amount of the population now that has been damaged badly as a result of everything that happened during the pandemic. I mean, even if it's only one person in an entire supermarket full of people, let's say, if you extrapolate that outward, you know, nationally, let's say it's 1% of the people in the country that are still doing this, and it might be that high. That's a lot of people walking around wearing a mask, clear evidence of the fact that they have been messed with mentally and they're not right in their heads anymore. And in a very real sense, I think neither are we, because we have been conditioned to just sort of roll with it and accept it and not look at it, and that's why it isn't going away. I've said before that a good way to think about this is if you had, let's say, a relative who announced that they were Napoleon, and they dressed like Napoleon, and they demanded to be addressed as emperor, probably you wouldn't go along with that. Probably you would try to get them help, get them some therapy. But we go along with this masking thing because we've been gaslit and browbeaten and just conditioned to believe that it's just not nice to say anything or to even look askance. These people are, you know, they're scared, and that's true, but it's beside the point. You know, kids get scared too sometimes, and it's the job of parents to ease their fears with reason, to explain to them that there is no reason to be afraid, and there's no reason, no rational reason, to walk around wearing a mask. Anyway, I'll have more about this over at EPautos.com, and I'll be on Bill Meyer's show tomorrow, which is Wednesday, at 9:30 East. Hope you can tune in, and if not, as always, you'll be able to find the audio of it up on the site probably by Thursday. So thanks as always for listening. We'll have more for you again soon.